Wonderful. So again, all welcome to our webinar today. We're going to be going over text messaging compliance. My name is Ben Nebesky. I'm a customer success manager here at MessageDesk, and along with a lot of other things, I help customers navigate the world of compliance, understand it, and make sure that you, as well as your business, are registered properly. So today we're going to go over text messaging compliance as a whole. From a bird's eye view sort of perspective, we're going to go into what it means and then what the key components of remaining compliant are. This can often be something that's intimidating or seems hard to navigate, but hopefully once we're done here today, you're going to have a really good idea of what compliance is and how to navigate it and get yourself and your business registered for text messaging. Before we get started, before I jump in, let's go ahead and do a quick poll of how knowledgeable you think you are on text messaging compliance. So I'm going to send this out. I'm going to share it. You should see a little survey pop up on your screen. So go ahead and feel free to take that out. Oh, okay. That should be there now. So you should be able to answer that poll, give an answer on how sure you are with compliance. I'll give that just a couple seconds here to give everyone a chance to answer. Wonderful. Okay. Thank you so much for doing that survey. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. So today we're going to be talking about what is compliance, why do we need compliance, why is this even a thing, why does it exist, and then the key components of compliance. So this includes message content, collecting opt-ins, help and stop messages, and registering your business and what you need to have in order to accomplish that. So starting off here, what is compliance? So there are two big picture items that carriers want to know. That includes who you are and what type of messages you're sending. So generally, everything in compliance falls under those two items. The carriers just want to know a little bit more information about you. They want to distinguish you and maybe someone who's sending spam text messages. So when they can verify your business, they know who you are. And then when they can take a look at your message content and see, okay, Sally is sending messages about appointment reminders since she's a hairdresser, they know that what she's sending is all good. And then we have some key components of remaining compliant here. So message content is a key one. So there's some types of message content that are restricted, some that you're not allowed to send, and we're going to go over those in just a little bit in this presentation. And then consent to messaging. We call this opt-in a lot. So, your contacts need to give you consent in order to opt in to receiving messages from you. And then the ability to opt out of messages is another important key component. If your contacts give you consent to message them, it's just as important to give them the opportunity to opt out of receiving your messages. And then registering your business is another key component here, and often the part that causes the most confusion. So we're going to run through that today, and hopefully after this, it'll be well understood. So we're going to dive into each of these key components of compliance, dissect them a little bit, and hopefully give you some more information. One key question that I love to answer about compliance is, does this only affect MessageDesk customers or MessageDesk users? And the key answer there is no, it does not only affect MessageDesk customers. This is an industry-wide requirement that has been put in place by the carriers. This is a process that happens with every text messaging provider, no matter who you go to. MessageDesk or here at MessageDesk, we try and help you do it in the most effective way possible and make it as easy as possible to register your business. And we take as much of the burden on for facilitating that process that we can. Moving on here. Why do we need compliance? First of all, I apologize. I'm missing an emoji there. This presentation didn't export as well as I hoped. But why do we need compliance? Number one is going to be reducing unwanted messages. You can see this text in the top right that I have as an example there. That is literally a spam message that I received about 3 days ago. So overall, the carriers as a whole are trying to reduce the amount of these types of messages that are in the text messaging ecosystem. Text messaging is a very personal and direct way of communicating with, for you, customers, contacts, clients. But it's also the same way that I text my brother, my sister, my dad, my grandpa. It's a very direct and personal form of communication. This is probably the reason why so many of you have wanted to use text messaging and continue to want to use text messaging. Unfortunately, it also means that personal and direct form of communication can be exploited by spammers in order to get and access information from you. Email is another famous communication medium for spam or phishing campaigns. Everyone is familiar with the African prince who emails you and tries to get money and your social security number. Text messages tend to be much more effective for that sort of thing because it is so personal and so direct. So really, compliance is an effort in order to make sure that all traffic that is occurring over text messaging networks is verified and approved by the carriers. That way, they don't inadvertently block your messages or flag your messages for anti-spam. The second reason why we need compliance is going to be distinguishing between A2P and P2P traffic. So I can break these down a little bit for you. P2P, person-to-person traffic, is going to be messages that occur in a conversational nature between two people. So when you're messaging your friend or your family member, this is a P2P message. It's one individual sending a message to another individual. And the traffic that we're going to be talking about today and why compliance is a thing in and of itself is application to person messaging. So this is any business or entity or organization that is sending messages to an individual. It's called application to person because that messaging usually originates from an application like MessageDesk. So really what we're talking about today in this presentation is going to be A2P messaging. So really the difference between these two is for P2P messaging, obviously you don't have to register your personal traffic. I don't need to register to send text from my personal phones. So A2P, what we're talking about today is really where compliance comes into effect and where carriers like to know when it is a business entity or organization sending messages. So moving on here, now we're going to dive into those key components of compliance that I was talking about before. So first, we're going to go over restricted messages. So generally, you can message about anything on text messaging networks. There are just the small list of things that carriers essentially restrict you from messaging about, whether you are registered as a business or not registered. So going over some of these, shaft messages. So these are prohibited by federal law. This is sex, hate, alcohol, firearms, and tobacco. Some of those are restricted products. Others, they just don't want you texting about in general as an entity or a business. Third party or affiliate lead or commission generation. Loans, credit, debt relief campaigns. So advertisements for loans, credit repair offers, debt relief. Those are great ways to get a social security number from somebody. So that's why those are so restricted. Debt collection. Not exactly the same thing as a payment reminder or an invoice reminder. We give you the ability to do those in MessageDesk. It's not quite the same thing. So no worries there. A payment reminder is much more benign than a debt collection effort. You're not using specific dollar amounts often. So they are a little bit different. Work from home, secret shopper campaigns. Another way to get you to fill out a W-2 with your social security number. So generally, this small list of items are restricted by carriers, whether you're registered or not. And we find that it's pretty easy to stay within those guardrails. So the second key component of compliance is getting consent. We also refer to this as collecting opt-in from contacts. So really the goal of getting consent is to make sure that your contacts are giving you permission to reach out to them. So this is really important because, you know, it needs to be clear to your contacts as to what they're going to be receiving messages about, and then they get to make the choice as to whether they want to receive those messages or not. Getting consent is especially important with marketing campaigns specifically. So for individual conversations that you're having where a customer reaches out to you, you know, let's say I, Ben, reach out to Kyle and I'm asking Kyle, hey, you know, Kyle, I know you have this great business and you're a great hairdresser. You know, I wanted to know if you had any open bookings for next week. Since I, the individual, am messaging Kyle, who represents the business, that is implied consent. I don't really need to get consent for individual conversations that are of support in nature, where your contact is reaching out to you to ask one question. As long as you're not messaging about anything outside of that specific context, you should be all good. But consent gets to be especially important for marketing campaigns or, you know, alerts for an account, you know, appointment reminders, places where you are going to be initiating the conversation with your contact. So basically, consent as a whole is just giving your contacts the opportunity to say yes or no, I don't want to receive those messages. My rule of thumb personally is that if your contacts aren't expecting to receive a message from you, it's likely that you haven't achieved consent yet. So it would be a good idea to implement some of the things that I'm going to talk about on the next slide. So how do you collect opt-ins? How do you collect consent? Excuse me. So there are a couple different ways to collect opt-ins. There's no specific guidelines on the medium to which you have to collect an opt-in. But I do have some examples here for you. So one is going to be keywords. I actually have an example of a keyword opt-in on the right side of the screen here. It says text yes to 313-9465 to sign up for promotional messages from the coffee house. Very succinct, very clear in the call to action and the message that we're trying to get across to that contact, and giving them the opportunity to decide whether or not they want to receive those messages. So those are called autoresponders in MessageDesk. You can set them up today if you'd like. You can set up a keyword yes, subscribe, opt-in, so on and so forth. And then you can just advertise something that looks like this to your contacts if they want to opt into your messages. There are web forms as well. These are called forms in MessageDesk, but it's really any web form that you have. So a lot of businesses that at least I see will have a contact us page on their website. Sometimes in WordPress or wherever you manage your website, they have a default form that you can insert on that page. That's a great place to put an opt-in message, a little checkbox perhaps that says, by checking this box, you are opting in to receiving promotional messages from the coffee house. That's a great place to put a consent message. Widgets as well. So we call these chatbots in MessageDesk. This is something that may appear on the bottom right corner of your website, like a pop-up that says, hey, do you want to opt into receiving marketing messages? Do you want to opt into receiving appointment reminders? That's another great way to collect consent. POS systems, another great way. I know Square does it, but also Toast, something you may use in your business to, check customers out, or even on your e-commerce website. Any of these may even have a default option for you to insert a compliance message at the end of the checkout process or on, say, the tipping screen on a POS system. And then there are paper forms as well. So you can collect consent via paper form. It could be at the bottom of an invoice where they sign. It could be on a work order. It can always be on a paper form as well. So really, you're just getting your contacts, clients, customers to check a box and make sure that they are consenting to receiving your messages. The third key component of compliance messages I have here is stop and help messages. So this is the inverse of collecting opt-in or collecting consent. This is you giving the opportunity to your contacts to no longer receive your messages. Help and stop are required by federal regulators as well. The stop keyword, for example, will allow contacts to opt out of receiving messages from you. This is standard in MessageDesk. So as you can see here on the right, I've shown a little image of your compliance settings in MessageDesk. If you already have a MessageDesk account, you can go to your settings, then compliance settings to view these messages and edit the message that gets sent out in response. So the stop keyword is enforced in MessageDesk automatically. Carriers may enforce it as well. So the message never or may never actually reach MessageDesk if one of your contacts were to text stop. Sometimes it may never reach MessageDesk. Sometimes the carriers may say, okay, we've recognized that you sent a stop keyword to this number. We will no longer allow them to send messages to you. The help keyword as well. This just tells your contacts how to text or how to contact you outside of text messaging. So, for example, in this image here, it's help keyword, and then it says Nevada Roofing for help. Email ben@messagedesk.com. Reply stop to opt out. So it just gives them a way to contact you outside of that text messaging medium. Again, MessageDesk manages all of these for you by default. They're by default enabled. They cannot be disabled. The thing that you can do in your MessageDesk account is customize that message that gets sent in response. Moving on here. So what are the benefits of registering your business? This is the fourth component of compliance. Registering your business with the carriers is a very important part of compliance. This tells them who you are and what you're messaging about. This is you formally communicating it to them. So the benefits are going to ensure delivery of your messages and faster delivery of your messages. So we want to avoid failures altogether. MessageDesk is in the business of delivering your messages. So registering your business is a way to ensure that happens. And then if you don't register, you could encounter deliverability issues or lower message throughput. And if you think about why would that happen? What if I don't register? Why would I ever encounter deliverability issues? Well, it's really because if the carriers see a message exit your number, they aren't really aware of who you are. They aren't really aware of how you usually message your contacts. All they're aware of is that message contains a link. It includes a dollar amount. It really looks like a debt collection or debt relief. It looks like something that could be a phishing campaign. And of course, they don't know who you are or what you're messaging about. So out of caution, they are likely going to block that message if it looks anything like something that could be a spam message. So the best way to avoid that is to register your business. That way, before you go out and send a message or before you're messaging in high volume, the carriers already know who you are. They already know what you're messaging about, and they can give you the green light and the thumbs up. So registering your business. Again, it lets them know who you are and what you're messaging about. Registration for local numbers. So a number that's on your personal cell phone has a standard area code in front of it that usually takes about 3 weeks to complete. And then toll-free numbers like an 800 number, an 866 number, an 855 number, those can take up to 6 weeks and sometimes longer to complete. Why does it take so long to complete registration? It's because carriers have to manually approve each registration that is submitted on a case-by-case basis. So there's an actual person who will look at your registration submission and give it a thumbs up or the thumbs down. We rarely see registrations get denied outright. Sometimes carriers will come back to us and say, hey, there's some information missing here, some additional information that we need, or the opt-in doesn't quite satisfy our requirements. In those cases, it's still not denied outright. You just have to resubmit, and the carriers often approve those on the second submission. So now I want to go over how to submit registration, what that looks like in MessageDesk, what the information you need to have is, and we'll just dive right in. So here's the information that you need to register your business. So I've divided it into two columns to make it really easy. One is who you are, and the other is what you're messaging about. So on the left side here, we have who you are, which is your business information. So there are some pretty standard pieces of information here, like legal organization name, EIN, or another tax ID if you're in Canada, your address, and then some contact information for an individual in your business. A lot of people get somewhat concerned when they see that we're collecting EIN. So the reason we collect EIN, and I won't say we because it's really the carriers, the reason they collect EIN is so that they can look at your EIN, look at your organization name, and say, okay, these match with government records. MessageDesk actually has this EIN when it's registered with the state. That way they can verify that you're a real business. So the EIN and the legal organization name are usually the most important pieces of information. And that allows the carriers to verify who you are. And then on the right side, we have what you're messaging about. So message information. So this is going to be all of the stuff that we essentially talked about in the previous slides. So one is going to be, how do you collect opt-in with your clients? Are you using a form? Are you using a chatbot widget? So on and so forth. They're going to want proof of that, whatever it may be, even if it's a paper form, keyword, whatever it may be. And then they're going to want a use case description. Basically just a description of why you're using text messaging altogether. So it can be as simple as I am a hairdresser who is using text messaging to send appointment reminders to my regular clients. Completely would suffice on registration. So let's show you what this looks like in MessageDesk. If you log into your MessageDesk account, if you have one already, if you don't, I encourage you to go sign up for a free trial and try it out, and you will see something similar to what we see here on the screen. In the top left, you're going to see your business name or your workspace name and your phone number. So on the left is an unregistered number in MessageDesk. So it's going to appear red in the top left there. So all you have to do in order to register your number is drag your mouse up to the top left, hover over that number. It's going to give you a little message saying your number is unregistered, and then it'll provide a link that's also highlighted in red where you can submit your registration information. So really easy. And then on the right is what it looks like when it's registered. So when you submit your registration, it goes to us. We send it out to our carrier partners. They give it the green light or the red light. And if they give it the green light, we will mark your number as registered in our system, essentially. So after it is registered and it's been accepted by the carriers, it will appear as purple. So in that period where you have submitted registration, but your number has not been approved yet, it will still appear as red. It will still appear as unregistered. So no need to be concerned there. If you have any questions when submitting your registration at all, I encourage you to click this help button in the bottom left corner. It will allow you to connect with a team member, sometimes even myself, to talk where you can talk about registration and any questions that you may have related to it. Any fields in there, anything about opt-in, we would be happy to help you out. So just a little recap of what we talked about today. We're nearing kind of the end of this webinar. We talked about what is compliance. The key part there being carriers want to know who you are and what you're messaging about. And then why do we need compliance? It reduces the amount of spam messages and improves the rest of the text messaging ecosystem. And then it allows carriers to distinguish between business and personal traffic. And then key components of compliance, message content, collecting opt-ins, help and stop messages, and registering your business and what you need to have in order to do that. So next, we are going to go into the Q&A section if anyone has a question. But first, I'm going to put out another poll just to see what everyone's feeling is about how they feel about compliance now. So feel free to answer that poll to give me an idea of how you're feeling now, how knowledgeable you are about compliance after attending this webinar. So I'll give everyone a second to answer that there. Wonderful. Okay. If there are any questions, I encourage you to submit them in the chat there, and I'd be happy to answer. Otherwise, though, this is the conclusion of the webinar. We will be sending out an email directly after this webinar that includes a recording of it if you want to watch it a little bit later and reference back to something that I said or something that I mentioned. But if you have any further questions after this webinar that you that are burning, that you want to get answered and you forgot to ask, please go ahead and log into your MessageDesk account. Navigate to the bottom left to that help button and connect with our team, and we'd be happy to answer those questions. Or you can submit your questions to support@messagedesk.com. I did get a question. Is there a cost for registering? There is not a cost. Here at MessageDesk, we roll that into your subscription costs. With a lot of other providers, there is a cost. We take on a monthly cost for registering your number. So we roll it into your subscription costs, so it's not a hidden fee, something that you get hit with after the fact. So to answer your question, no, there's not a cost with MessageDesk. Okay, perfect. Seeing as though I have no other questions, I'll go ahead and close the session. Thank you all for attending. We're going to be doing these webinars more regularly in the future, so I encourage you to look out for those emails. And thank you so much for attending. I appreciate your time and have a wonderful rest of your week and a wonderful weekend.